Bonjour à tous et toutes. Welcome to our channel in French. And today we're going to be looking at articles, that is indefinite articles, the definite articles, and then lastly we're going to be looking at the partitive article. So to start off with, articles, in French, a noun it's usually introduced by a determiner, and articles are part of those determiners. So for articles now we have indefinite, definite, and partitive, which form one of the main groups of determiners in French. So a determiner, in this lesson, we're going to be looking at the forms and main uses of indefinite and of course definite articles. And for your articles, one thing to remember is that your articles, you put them before the noun, before the noun. Same way in English, you use articles like for the car, the phone, a car, a phone. That's what we mean when we're referring to them as determiners and articles. So if we're starting off with the indefinite article in French, it has three forms. So you have the singular, that is un for masculine, or une for feminine, which are both the English on. And the plural now, which corresponds to some in English. It has the same form for both genders. What do we mean? If you're looking at the singular one, for masculine it's un, for feminine it's une. But then the plural, they both use the same one, which is they. So your masculine un, your feminine une, and then your plural is they. So how then to choose indefinite articles? For you to know like which indefinite article to use, it depends on two things, which is the noun's gender and the noun's number. If you're looking at the noun's gender, you're asking yourself, is it masculine or feminine? If you're looking at the noun's number, you're asking yourself, is it singular or plural? Those two questions will help you make your life easy when it comes to selecting which article should I use. So for the noun's gender, that will help you determine to see whether you're going to be saying un or une. So you have un garçon, which is a boy, or une fille, which is a girl. Looking at the noun's number, you have des garçons, that's some boys, des filles, that is some girls. But then in both cases, indefinite articles, they refer to an unspecified person or thing. Because if you go back, we're simply saying a boy. That's all we know. Whether he looks young, whether he's... We don't even know anything else. Same way you're saying a girl. Same way you're saying boys, some girls. We don't know what number it is. So that's where the name comes from, where we're saying l'article indéfini, that it's not defined, it's not specified. It's just an article that is there. So if you're looking at now here at the singular forms for your masculine and feminine and the plural forms, like we said, it's translated as or n, but then our examples now we're looking at il y a un garçon dans la classe, which is there is a boy in the classroom. Il y a une fille dans la classe, that is there's a girl in the classroom. Now our plural forms, like we said, it's translated as some. Il y a des garçons dans la classe. There's some boys in the classroom. Il y a des filles dans la classe. There are some girls in the classroom. So we have minimal information about these people. But for your articles, like I said, your nouns are preceded by a determiner. Like in this case, we're looking at articles. But when you refer now to a person's profession or religion, the indefinite article is not used. Example, il est professeur, he's a teacher. Elle est étudiante, she's a student. So in French, we just say il est professeur, elle est étudiante. And then now, the only exception is when that professional religion is preceded by a qualifying word like an adjective. That's when we need to reintroduce the article. So let's say il est professeur. But if he's a good teacher and we want to quantify that, il est un excellent professeur. Same as elle est étudiante. She's a student. But then if she's an excellent student, then elle est une excellente étudiante. That's the only difference there. So where normally you would exclude them when you're referring to professions, when you now want to quantify it, let's say you want to use an adjective, that's when you have to reintroduce the article. So now moving on to definite articles. There are four forms of the definite article in French. So the singular definite articles is le, that's your masculine. La, that's your feminine. Then L apostrophe in the plural lay. All of which they correspond to the in English as a quantifier. So here is your table now if you're looking at this one. For your masculine, you have le, feminine, you have la, and then before vowel or ash, you have L apostrophe. And then the plural forms, they're the same. So before vowel or H, we're saying L apostrophe. Remember again, because of the elision that happens there, because of the clash of vowels, that's how we then drop the first one. Le, your masculine, la, feminine. Before vowel, L apostrophe, and then you plural all of them, it's lay. So how to then choose your definite articles? It depends on three different things. Remember, you ask yourself, is it masculine or is it feminine? Is it singular or plural? So you ask yourself the noun's gender, feminine or masculine? The noun's number, is it singular or it's plural? And then of course the third one, you're looking at if it's starting with a vowel or a consonant, then you'd know whether elision is possible or not. So the most helpful tip is you always ask yourself, is it masculine or feminine? Is it singular or plural, to determine the article that you're going to be using. So for your singular forms now, there's masculine, feminine. You have le garçon, which is the boy. Now it's specified. La fille, the girl. So maybe as a side note, your definite articles, they are often omitted in English, but they're now in the plural. Les garçons, the boys. Les filles, the girls. That's now in the plural. And after the definite article, let's move on to the partitive article. The partitive article, in a nutshell, more like referring to a part of something, but then it's not quantified. There's no quantifiable expression we can use, like some water, some sugar, something like that. So partitive articles, they describe nouns that are not quantified or countable. You cannot count them. So they're the equivalent of some and any in English, although they're also used in cases where nothing is used to in English translation. So now, they may never be omitted in French because they represent something that is part of a whole. Par exemple, slice of bread. It's uncountable like water. So more abstractly, they're used before the nouns of feelings or activities. So now you have de. For the masculine now, it's of the. You have du. For the feminine, it's de la. Before vowel, it's de, and then L apostrophe, and then your plural, it's they. So your masculine is du sucre, that's some sugar, de la, and then before vowel is de, then L with an apostrophe. So now, for examples, we have dans le frigo, il y a du lait. In the fridge, there's some milk, des fruits. These are loosely translated, by the way, so the English is going to be butchered. So, dans le frigo, in the fridge, il y a du lait, there's some milk. That's the du, that's your partitive article there. Des fruits, some fruits, et de la viande, and some meat. Next one. Tandy ressent de la colère contre Mark. Tandy feels anger towards Mark, like he's angry at Mark. So Tandy feels some anger. We cannot. We don't know how is he like angry, or it's not that angry. We don't know. All we know is that it's some anger. That's towards Mark. And so as a note, your partitive articles, they're not used with verbs like adorer, aimer, préférer, or détester. So it's just j'adore le vin. That is, I love wine. Or I adore, I love, I prefer, I hate wine. And then your partitive article. So for the difference in meaning between the partitive article and the definite articles, we have an example here. Il mange du fromage. Du fromage in this sense meaning part of a whole, right? Like it's part of, I don't know how many slices it got, but then il mange le fromage, that's the totality. It's precise. It's determined. Like il mange le fromage, he's probably going to finish it. but then partitive, du fromage is part of. And when you're using the noun plus the vowel or mute H, so the definite articles le and la, they contract to L apostrophe, that's for masculine or feminine. When a noun starts with a vowel or mute H, the one we looked at. And then if the noun now is plural, that's when you use lay. So you know that if you're using lay, then you can't be worried if your noun is going to be starting with H or vowel, because lay ends with an S. So examples, yeah. We have noun starting with a vowel and then noun starting with the ash mute. The singular, we have l'ami, that is the friend. Then the feminine, l'ami with an E for the friend. And then plural now, you have les amis, that is the friends. Les amis, the friends. And ending IES because it's feminine. Now you look on the other side, noun starting with an ash mute. We have l'homme, the masculine for the man. L'histoire, feminine, that's the history. Plural, les hommes, the men. And les histoires, that is the histories, or the stories. So those are the differences. And for the ash mute now, the ash mute, ash mue or the mute A, it's never pronounced, but then it affects the terminals in two ways. As you noticed, there's a contraction of the definite articles, le, la, before nouns such as le plus om, then becomes l'homme, or la and then histoire, then becomes l'histoire. That's how the ash affects the use of articles. But then of course there's some exceptions where there's no contraction at all, and then the reason is because it's etymological, it changes the sense. But then the best way to remember which ones allow contractions, which do not, is to learn the words themselves, then, because you know that the sense changes. So example, there's nouns from Latin that use l'heure, that's the time, l'horaire, the timetable, l'hôtel, the hotel, l'hypothèse, the hypothesis. Then ash nouns that use le, we have la honte, that is shame, le héros, that is hero. Main reason for le héros is more like if you put it in the plural, you would use the article to say the heroes, les, right? So it has to be the different, because if you say les héros and try to use and try then to make it one in pronunciation, saying les héros, there'll be a problem. So that's why they separate le héros, la Hollande, le hasard. It's just in the case of le héros. It sounds like you're saying les zéros when it's supposed to be les héros. That's why the ash there is pronounced separately. Now moving on, this really, take a screenshot of this here. This is your crack. Yeah, I would say crack, as in your go-to when it comes to articles, because it summarizes the what I was saying for the past 13 minutes well. You have your article défini, article indéfini, article partitif. This one got it on Fleur, where there's millions of resources when it comes to learning French. Fleur collectif. And then you have masculine, feminine, plural. So you have article défini, article indéfini, and then article partitif, right? Masculine, feminine, plural. Défini, ils introduisent un nom désignant une chose, that it introduces something already identified. That's your article défini, defined. Article indéfini, it's something that is not defined. Article partitif, that's something with a quantity, but then we cannot really quantify it. Okay. So you have le for your masculine, la, and then les for the definite articles. For the indéfini, you have un, une, des. Then for the article partitif, you have du, de la for your feminine, and then de for the contracted ones. And for the plural, we have des. So for the exercise, we have vocab here on a house, and it's the different parts of a house. And if you look at it, it has the gender designated in brackets. So for anything that's being pointed there, not anything, for everything that's being pointed there, it already has the gender in brackets. So our job is to then attribute the article to use. If we're saying chambre, in the brackets it says feminine. So which article do we then use if we want to say the room? That's what you're going to be doing. We'll start off with that one. And then for your exercise, we have here again, it says complété par le ou la. We have solution, romantisme, vérité, prudence, camscope, all those words. We also need to figure out, are we going to be filling out with le or la? Okay. So that's all we had on article, défini, indéfini, and partitif. Merci et au revoir.